on this edition of Somerville Neighborhood News. Learn about Somerville's bid for the Audi Urban Future Award, get the latest on the law that would limit overcrowding of Tufts student apartments, learn what kind of changes might be in store for the Brickbottom neighborhood, go behind the scenes at the Illuminations Tour, and delve into the marches and forums that are saying Black Lives Matter. All this and more on Somerville Neighborhood News.
Hello and welcome to Somerville Neighborhood News. Today is December 16th. I'm Sharon Johnson. Somerville Neighborhood News is a community service production of SCATV, put together by staff, interns, and your neighbors. We bring you the news every 2 weeks on SCATV, Channel 3, and on our website, somervilleneighborhoodnews.org. We begin at City Hall. Because referendum question 3 failed to pass on Election Day when Resorts got the green light to build its casino in Everett, but Mayor Joseph A. Curtatone is not giving up his fight against the $1.6 billion resort. The city is suing the Gaming Commission, saying it broke the law because the sale of the land to Wynn Resorts would benefit a convicted felon. We asked the mayor for details.
Well, as we have stated clearly over the last several months and year, the city of Somerville would exercise its full legal standing to oppose any casino project that impacts our community, in particular the Wynn project, which will sit literally yards away from the city of Somerville. That project poses a direct threat on our social well-being, our health, and our economic standing, because casinos abide by the economies of extraction. Casinos take money from your local and small businesses. They impact consumer spending in our local squares and neighborhood business districts. And that money all goes towards the craps tables, the roulette wheels, and the slot machines. It does nothing to further a sustainable local or regional economy. So it poses a direct threat on Somerville's growth and future. Therefore, the city of Somerville has filed in this action a challenge against the Mass Gaming Commission's decision to issue Steve Wynn a license to build a casino in Everett.
Now let's go to Tufts. The city is considering a new law that would help control overcrowding in students' off-campus apartments. It will require all post-secondary institutions to provide a list of where off-campus students live so inspectors could keep track of them and do inspections. Sarah Zhang has an update.
On December 3rd, the Board of Aldermen Legislative Matters Committee met to continue discussing the proposed ordinance. Tufts sent 4 people, 3 from the administration and the president of the Tufts Student Senate, to the meeting. They also sent a letter that pointed out where Tufts disagreed with the city.
We really aren't in a position to be enforcing the city's regulation against our own students. So, I mean, we completely understand if you want to enforce it, and but that's not. We don't feel that it's our obligation to enforce city ordinances.
Tufts students say that landlords regularly and knowingly have more than 4 tenants in an apartment in order to make more money.
They pack the students in there, and they'll charge $600 a month for 6 people, as opposed to charging $800 for 4 people.
Well, they're up to 800 now.
Yeah,
for 6 people. For 6 people now.
Rents have been going up significantly over last year. Especially, it's been in some cases over $100 more.
The rent's high for everybody. I pay rent too, and if I was living with 5 or 6 other people, I'd be held to the same standard. So I'm sympathetic, but I'm also, I've been dealing with high rent for about 15, 20 years now.
The homeowners who are my bosses, they feel sorry for you if you're going to get higher rent, but it's not their headache. Their headache is that they're abiding by the ordinances in our city, and some are choosing not to.
The ordinance has been under consideration since the end of August. Some landlords who know they've allowed in too many people are already throwing students out.
Our landlord knocked on our door, woke us all up, and he told me that he got this formal complaint from the state or the city saying that our house had too many tenants living in one unit. So our landlord told us that 2 of us have to leave house as soon as possible.
Tufts has provided on-campus housing for 4 evicted students as of December 8th. At the December 3rd meeting, Tufts officials and city representatives made some adjustments to the draft ordinance.
We want the focus, and I'm sure you would agree that with the focus to be on the health and safety and the compliance with the local codes of these housing units, and we feel that that is the appropriate responsibility of the landlords.
We are first and foremost about health and safety. It's not about pointing at the students. Absolutely not.
The committee will meet again to discuss the changes. If the aldermen are satisfied, the draft will go to the full board for a vote early in 2015.
I thought that the meeting was very, very productive. And right now, we're waiting for a new draft from the city solicitor.
It was a very productive meeting, and I felt as though the course of the focus of the ordinance was shifted to be more of a focus on student safety rather than evicting students.
About 1/3 of Tufts undergraduates, almost 2,000 students, live off campus.
And I would hope that the university will look toward building new housing on campus, because that's another critical part of the issue.
Some students, like Makoto, feel that Tufts has not done a good job telling them about the existing apartment limits, 3 to an apartment in Medford and 4 in Somerville. When Somerville Neighborhood News polled about a dozen students earlier this year, not one of them was aware of it.
Is that true? I did not know that.
I had no idea.
I actually did not know that.
I just wish the university was more open about these things and these possible laws. I mean, it's you can say that it's a student's fault for not knowing these laws, but I went to these meetings once hosted by a university about financing your housing as living in off campus, and I wish they told us at that meeting.
The administration admits it still has some work to do.
We haven't really developed a plan for how we'll get the word out. As a university, we need to make the rule that the city has for legal occupancy much more visible to students when they're going out to look for apartments. It's on the Res Life website, but you have to know where to look for it, and we want to put it right out there in front.
Many students are still unaware of the anti-crowding ordinances in Somerville and Medford. If all goes as planned, the new ordinance that would tell Somerville City Hall where off-campus students live will go into effect by September of next year. For Somerville Neighborhood News, I'm Sarah Zhang.
Next, we dig a little into the 2 recent grand jury decisions where white police officers were not indicted for the killing of unarmed black men, Michael Brown and Eric Garner. It turns out at the local and state level, grand juries rarely indict police officers, but they almost always indict regular people at the federal level. The Washington Post took a look. In 2010, over 162,000 cases went to grand juries. They declined to return indictments in only 11 cases. There have been protests all over the country and all over the world, from Atlanta to Brown University, Chicago City Hall, New York City's Grand Central, London, and even the U.S. Congress. On December 11th, staffers who belong to various associations uniting people of color walked out at 3:30 p.m. We've had protests in Boston also, like this march on November 26th.
Came up here before me. We march, we tweet, we Facebook. But you guys have to take some more collective action. We have got to do things that actually make a difference. Do not go shopping on Friday. How about blaming the police? How about teaching officers that are supposed to defend and protect to not kill? Did you see a black or brown face?
Closer to home, on December 5th, many hundreds of Tufts and Harvard students, as well as Somerville and Cambridge residents, marched and staged die-ins all down Mass Ave. Here's an excerpt of a video made by Cambridge resident and city councilor Nadim Mason.
We saw what Boston did last night. We saw the way everyone across the country has been making movement. And last night, the city of Boston was shut down. But so far, our universities, our colleges, our campuses have been untouched. in Somerville, in Cambridge, to know that they are not safe, that those places are complicit in this violence. That Tufts University is complicit in this violence. That Harvard University is complicit in this violence. That MIT is complicit in this violence. That Lesley University is complicit in this violence. These are the spaces where we are. This is not just the work of somebody that you saw on your Twitter. This is not just the work of somebody on your Facebook. This is not just the work of someone who's in the middle of the city. This is your work where you are. This was about disruption and making sure that those places know that Black Lives Matter. This is so that our colleges would be held accountable, so that business as usual was not going on while Black bodies are being murdered in the streets. This is so that our professors know that when we're in class, we are mindful that Black bodies are dying in the streets. Our administrators, the people who donate thousands and thousands and billions of dollars, who don't care about Black lives. The work does not stop here. We started at the beginning saying that this is not just a Black problem. This is your problem.
On a personal note, I'd like to add that I've also marched, once with my school and also at the Boston tree lighting. People are finally hearing what we have to say because we're making them listen. One example of that happened last week. New York State Attorney General Eric Schneiderman asked for the authority to bypass the grand jury process so that his office can automatically look into all police killings of unarmed civilians. And here at SCATV, we recently hosted a discussion called Community, Police, and Race. Here's an excerpt.
For an example, is we held a youth dialogue the other day. We held it at the police department, and I think that's so important. So I went downstairs last night to check on it, and as soon as I get down to the 5th floor, I could hear all the dialogue, right? And that's important, you know. So you can train, and we do train, but it's really, you know, our partnerships with a group like Teen Empowerment that make the Somerville Police Department a better police department.
Thank you. So how does that translate, Sergio? Like you're working with Teen Empowerment, but you're also a young man living in the city who, like, how does it, all the training or business that the government is doing, how does that translate for you?
I feel like it gives the kids a little more comfort. At the same time, I can understand there could still be that tension between police and youth, and just from recent events that they see on social media and just the news itself, as far as like Ferguson goes and things like Eric Garner in New York. I feel like they're going to build their own perceptions on what's going on with police. So, like David, Chief Fallon said, the dialogues that we have with the police can help immensely, just simply for the fact that when a kid is doing something wrong, and an officer that they've had that dialogue with comes across them, they could have that conversation instead of locking them up and putting them into incarcerating them. They can give them an option to just, you know, talk to them as a person and give them that advice to keep them out of prison, instead of, you know, handling him like he never knew him before, like a stranger, and just like basically not criminalizing them and putting him in that space and just seeing him as a person, as a youth growing up, you know, dealing with all the things that youth deal with and the issues, you know, just becoming a young man or woman, things of that nature, I believe.
Okay, thank you.
To see the entire forum, go to the SCATV website and look for the show under the playlist SCATV Specials. Now, let's get the latest word on health from Dr. Ira Michelson.
Hello, I'm Dr. Ira Michelson for the Medical Minute. I want to talk to you today about influenza vaccination. Everybody knows that it's flu season and that the flu is an illness which can make us very uncomfortable with fever, nausea, weakness, and the vaccination is available to everybody today so that we can prevent this illness. There are different types of vaccine. There is an injectable vaccine, which usually is injected into the deltoid, which is the upper arm. And there's also an intranasal vaccine, which can be inhaled into the nose. It's a droplet vaccine. The main difference between these two vaccines is that the injectable vaccine is an inactivated virus which cannot replicate and cause the infection. The intranasal droplet vaccine is a live virus, and there's a very small but unlikely chance that it could replicate in somebody who's immunocompromised and cause illness. The vaccine is safe. Some of the questions that have been raised about it include allergy and mercury. The vaccine that's usually used is raised in eggs, so if you're egg allergic, you need to let your doctor know and get a version of the vaccine that is not raised in eggs. In the vaccine, which comes in vials meant for multiple injections, there's a small amount of a substance called thimerosal, which is mercury. This is generally thought to be safe. So I want to encourage everybody to get vaccinated.
Next, since 2010, the car company Audi has organized the Audi Urban Future Awards. Teams from all over the world compete with initiatives on how to improve urban transportation and mobility. Somerville was part of the contest this year, but lost to Team Mexico City. Still, Team Boston, who chose Somerville as its focus, is continuing its work.
The award is a more theoretical exercise to rethink how the relation of mobility and the city will change. And in the years after the award, we always look for first pilot projects to really investigate in real time what could that effect be.
On December 2nd, Audi's Christian Gardner visited Somerville to talk with the mayor and Team Boston about potential collaborations that might improve mobility in the city.
Well, Somerville is the most densely populated city in New England. So Somerville, as one of its values and community goals, seeks over the next 20 years to shift all future trips by 50% more towards biking, walking, and public transit, so we can create a more sustainable, a more healthy community, and also reduce our carbon footprint.
The Boston team consists of the urban designers Philip Parsons, Jane Corneal, and mobility expert Federico Parolotto from Italy. Their testing ground, the city of Somerville, close to downtown Boston. They developed the Urban Dashboard.
We could find a way to manage innovation so that the city could really benefit, we would be much better off, because all these changes could just make city life worse. Right now, the zoning in Somerville requires that over 40% of the space for new construction is devoted to the cars. It makes it very expensive to build. It also means you have to build in certain ways. You don't have much flexibility. Right behind me, there's an intersection where you can wait 3 minutes to get across the street. And while you're waiting those 3 minutes, the new Green Line train will come, and then it will leave again, and you'll miss the train because we manage the intersection here so badly. One technology, for example, that Audi has developed is called piloted parking. And in this case, where cars park themselves, you can save between 30 and 50% of the space you need in a garage, which means you're using a lot less space for parking.
We were proud to go and support the Boston team. We are seeking to utilize Somerville as a test lab for many of these ideas and innovations. Whether it's a new parking technology, whether it's roadway congestion management, or it's smarter vehicles. We're interested in all these things and more so that we become smarter and more sustainable in our approach to managing and planning the mobility of the future.
We're using Somerville as an illustration of a strategy, really. But the potential for this kind of approach is national or global.
The future might be a long way off. But as Team Boston designers is working with the city now to make sure that Somerville is prepared for the transportation and mobility changes that might be around the corner. For Somerville Neighborhood News, I'm Yu Xiaoyuan.
Now let's take a look at a neighborhood that's already thinking about its future, Brickbottom. On December 4th, residents of the Brickbottom Artist Building gathered to hear a new take on the future of their slice of the city. Elijah Kaplan has the story.
Tonight we're going to do a presentation of our research findings, our analysis, some information we gathered from community outreach, and we'll also present our visions for the Brickbottom-McGrath area, as well as some ideas, some recommendations for how to make that happen.
A group of graduate students from the Department of Urban Planning at MIT worked with City Hall to develop ideas which could be incorporated into the future planning for the area.
We are proposing ideas that the city could then take moving forward with a lot of these changes that we know are going to happen.
We're working a lot on an overhaul of the city zoning ordinance. Some of the new and innovative ideas that students often come up with could be pulled into the into the fold of what the possibilities are here.
We heard a lot about bringing in mixed use, but making sure that it had character, and so we really wanted to build on the arts and industry that's already here. A vibrant, walkable public realm, so making sure that people can actually walk around and not have to navigate between a tree and a fire hydrant to get down the sidewalk. Increasing density, so a lot of growth is coming to this area. And then finally, providing affordable space. We know that the rents are what allow a lot of the interesting things to happen here to happen, so we want to make sure that we preserve that.
Reactions among the audience were mixed, but there were some common issues the residents seemed most concerned about.
It's really hard to stop that gentrification stuff, and that's, part of my concern is, yes, you want to see stuff come, but keep it small, keep it friendly. There's not even a store or a place to get a cup. We get a coffee truck comes down every day, but sometimes it's nice to go sit down or have a little neighborhood shop or something.
And having groups come in with a vision of what could come in, and particularly a vision that's somewhat off the beaten track and focusing on maker space, on fabrication space, it's a thought provoker. So it's really interesting.
So the idea of fabrication, more jobs in the area, more vitality, tax base for the city, that's all great. But I think anyone who's been paying relatively low rents and has been here for a while as an artist has some concern that their rents might go up to an extent that becomes not tenable. And as I think was mentioned tonight, if that happens, the neighborhood loses.
After this presentation from students rather than developers, many questions remain unanswered about the future of Brickbottom. But with the Green Line extension and the grounding of the McGrath, one thing is for sure, change is coming to Brickbottom. For Somerville Neighborhood News, I'm Elijah Kaplan.
Now let's hear what's in this week's Somerville Journal.
Hello, this week in the Somerville Journal we'll have the latest on developments at Assembly Square, coverage of the Jingle Bell Run, and a look at meetings between teen empowerment leaders and Somerville police officers. You can always catch us at wickedlocal.com/Somerville, follow us on Twitter @VilleJournal, and get in touch with me at datkinson@wickedlocal.com or 617-629-3385.
Last, we're out on the streets to get a taste of Somerville's Illuminations Tour with Kayla Mamalak.
Thanks, Sharon. Behind me is one of the many houses that took part in Somerville's 18th Illuminations Tour. I went aboard one of the trolleys to find out more.
On behalf of the City of Somerville, I welcome you to the 18th Annual Illuminations Tour.
Sometimes we think of artists just as people who went to art school, who studied painting or literature, but the Illuminations Tour shows that everyone is creative, and a lot of these homeowners, the majority of the homeowners, haven't gone to art school, but yet they are creating beautiful displays that involves aesthetic decision making. We use these trolleys to cart approximately 1,000 people on one night close to winter solstice, the darkest night of the year, but it's when the citizens of Somerville light up the night with their holiday light decorations.
But who are Somerville's illuminators, and why do they do it?
I started doing it with my dad back when I was maybe about 5 years old. We have 3 pieces, and since that point in time it's grown and grown and grown. And Dad's passed away, but the tradition still exists, and we carry it forward. We've always had a nativity, a small nativity inside the house, and he wanted to, bring the enjoyment or the enjoying of the nativity to everybody. I had this lit for 1 hour, and it was already on Facebook. People were already out there saying, "He did it, it's lit, everybody get down there," kind of thing. And just carried forward to the entire neighborhood. It's grown in this whole spirit of Christmas. I'm done right now, other than putting baby Jesus in, which he'll go in on Christmas Eve. I used to put him in earlier, but he kept disappearing on me. So now I wait until Christmas Eve and I put him in.
This is my Christmas. Because at my age, what do I need? I don't need clothes, right? I don't need tools at my age. It gives me something to look forward to be honest with you. And my daughters help me now, and my grandsons and my son-in-laws. They're all getting into it now, too. I live here. I got 2 daughters that live there. Excuse me, the daughter lives over here. You got the Disney figures on the ground that I could find, and Mickey and Minnie up there, and the snowman, the Santa Claus, a couple of soldiers. And, those trees, they're musical, and the lights change color. Oh, everything lights up. Everything. Nice. There's nothing I put out doesn't light up. When it ain't cold, it takes about a week to do. But when it's cold like this, it takes about a month. Yeah, I was saying next year I'm starting them right after Labor Day. It's all done. Now I just gotta fix a few things that aren't tied in.
Hey, how are you? Welcome to my Christmas tree house. These are the bottoms of the Christmas tree for each year that I've been here. Been here since '93. These are all my favorites. Anything with Santa Claus is a favorite. That started out to be a hobby, and then all of a sudden the kids got a kick out of some of the things that I made. I'm 73 years old. I'm getting tired of this, but as long as I can hear the oohs and the ahs from the little kids, I'll keep doing it. That's the candy cane with the little elf on there. That's Santa Claus that's supposed to go inside of a chimney upside down. I draw them, paint them. I make my own patterns. The windshield wiper motor making that go. But all this wooden stuff is what you see. I built and painted.
Well, that's it for tonight. We'll be back at 7 p.m. on Channel 3 on December 31st with a special show that takes a look at some of the top stories of 2014. Please tune in or check it out on our webpage anytime after 7 p.m. on New Year's Eve. In the meantime, you can watch and read news stories at somervilleneighborhoodnews.org and check out our Facebook page, SCATV SNN. Share your favorite segment or send a tweet at SCATV SNN. We welcome you to get involved with Somerville Neighborhood News. Become a reporter or just send in your ideas. Call us at 617-628-8826 or write news@scatvsomerville.org. I'm Sharon Johnson. We'll see you around the neighborhood in 2015.